Hi guys, in today's video we're going to talk about softboxes. Strip boxes, rectangular softboxes, octaboxes, and even those weird deep ones that nobody knows what to call them that have like 16 rods. So let's get started. So in order to talk about softboxes, we first need to understand what they do. Essentially, how they work is light bounces around inside of them, which makes that light more even, and then it goes through layers of fabric, which further can make the light more even, but mostly it makes it softer. In addition to that, the larger the modifier relative to your subject, the softer the light will be. So if you have two softboxes, a 5-foot and a 3-foot one, from the same manufacturer in the same model, and you have them both 3 feet away, the 5-foot modifier will be significantly softer than the 3-foot modifier. Another principle that's good to understand is that if you take that 3-foot modifier at 3 feet away and you put the 5-foot modifier 5 feet away, the light will be of similar quality, but it would be more even head to toe with the 5-foot modifier, whereas the 3-foot modifier will be more focused on the subject's upper body. You're probably wondering, what is the difference between a softbox and an umbrella? And in general, the answer to that question is quality. An umbrella is generally seen as an entry-level modifier, and a softbox is seen as a higher-level one. That's really the only difference. Now, there are softboxes that are low quality that aren't that soft, and there are umbrellas that are really good quality and are better than some softboxes. For the most part, softboxes come in 3 different types. There are strip softboxes, rectangular softboxes, and octaboxes. In addition to that, there are also these weird 16-sided softboxes, but we'll talk about that at the very end of the video. So strip softboxes are what I will usually use for an edge light or a hair light. A large, narrow strip softbox is great for creating an edge along the side of your subject. The one I use is the Elinchrom Indirect Litemotiv, which is 33 centimeters by 175 centimeters. In inches, that's 13 inches by 69 inches. What makes this modifier special is that it's indirect, which just means that the head points away from your subject. You can take the diffusion panels off of the front of this light, and that'll give you a large, hard, narrow light source, which could be great if you're shooting an athlete or you want something maybe like a dancer that looks very contrasty and over the top. Normally, for photographing most people, you're going to want to leave the diffusion on, but if you want that other option, the indirect provides you both soft light and hard light. For my hair light, I usually use an Elinchrom small strip box that measures 30 by 90 centimeters, or roughly 1 by 3 feet. The reason why I usually use a strip softbox for my hair light is because I want that light to be focused just on the subject's shoulders and the top of their head. I don't need it spilling all over the set and lighting their lower back or the floor behind the subject. The other reason is if I'm shooting in a room with a low ceiling, there's no reason for me to put a 3-foot umbrella back there because it's just going to take up a lot of the elevation that I have to work with, and I might not be able to have my model standing, and I might have to have them sitting. So that's why I use a strip softbox for my hair light. The next type of softbox is a rectangular softbox. Now back in the day, these were probably the most common softbox, and probably you have one somewhere. If you're like me, I have a garbage can full of modifiers in my garage. I'm not really sure why they're in a garbage can, but it's convenient, and they're all in there. I have 2 small rectangular softboxes that are 55 by 75 centimeters, or roughly 20 by 30 inches. I usually use these small rectangular softboxes for video, and the only reason why is because I can easily adapt them to Bowen's mount, which is what my LED lights take. It's the only reason why. The rear opening on the Elinchrom softboxes seems to be fairly tight around the Octabox ring, and because of that, there isn't the physical space that I need to modify the Elinchrom ring to Bowen's mount to fit it on my softbox. Then I also have 2 really large softboxes that measure 4.5 by 6 feet, or about 135 by 180 centimeters. I typically will only use these softboxes for a background like in this photo, and sometimes I will use two of them in tandem if I'm shooting a really big group. The problem with these softboxes for me is that they don't have any diffusion in the inside of them, and so I don't really regard them as being very soft or high quality, and I just use them when I kind of need to get the job done. The next classification of softboxes that we're going to talk about are octaboxes. And I think for most photographers, octaboxes are the most popular type of modifier to use for your main light. Most of the time, that's how I use them. I think the reason why they're so popular is they produce really high quality light. And in my case, I think that my rectangular softboxes are just not that well built, and my octaboxes are extremely well built. If you think about the shape of a flash tube, they're typically round. I can't think of one that isn't. But a round flash tube is going to spread out light more evenly in a round or round adjacent modifier like an octabox a lot better than it's going to fill out a rectangle. So just think about that 4.5 by 6 foot or 130 by 180 centimeter softbox that I have. The distance from the side of the modifier to the flash tube is a lot smaller than the distance from the corner to the flash tube. Whereas in an octabox, those measurements are all the same no matter which way you go. So that really creates more even light across the face of the modifier. And a more even modifier will produce softer light as well. So that's something to be considered. Now I currently own and use 4 of them, and they're of different sizes. So the smallest one that I use is 70 centimeters or 27.5 inches. It's the Elinchrom Deep Octa. Now having it be deep means that it's going to be more directional, which just means focused and more isolated. So usually I will use this modifier for a headshot, and the ideal distance for me is probably around 70 centimeters, the diameter of the modifier. This is going to give me contrasty, yet even and pleasing light. So that's how I use it most of the time. Then one step up is the 100 centimeter or 39 inch Deep Octa. I use this modifier a lot of the time as my go-to for anything that is a headshot or 3/4 or anything in there. If I could only own one softbox, this would be the one that I would use most of the time because it's very versatile. It'll work in a small room or a large room, and it just makes really nice and pleasing light. The octabox that I use most of the time is the Elinchrom Indirect 190 centimeter octabox, which might be 74.5 or 74 or 75 inches, depending on the listing if you're looking it up on the imperial scale. I use this modifier all the time, mostly for full body shots, because it really resembles window light and it's so big that it gives me a lot of coverage. Now, just like the indirect strip, this is an indirect modifier, so I can take the diffusion off and use it essentially as a giant silver reflector, which is a great look if I'm doing something like a fashion shoot and I just want a crispy look, or I'm shooting an athlete jumping through the air. But most of the time I use it with the diffusion. Now if I'm in a situation where the room is too small for the 190 centimeter Octa, or maybe I'm outside and it's windy, I will use my 135 centimeter or 53 inch Rotalux Octabox. It looks similar to the 190, it's just not going to catch as much wind or need as high of a ceiling. Because if you're in a regular office that might be 2.5 meters or 8 feet tall, that 190 takes up a huge amount of room, and the 135 is just a lot more friendly for that sort of space. Now, the next category of softboxes would be the 16-sided ones. I have no idea what that is called because I'm not a mathematician, or maybe I'm just not that smart, but I just don't really know what you would call that other than 16-sided. So I use the Elinchrom Litemotiv 120 centimeter deep parabolic, and it's extremely directional. So what it does for me is it gives very soft light, similar to the 190, but unlike the 190, it focuses it basically going straight forward. And if I'm shooting a subject on set and I just want to light them, mostly from, let's say, the mid-thigh up, I will just point it precisely and I'll only light up that part of their body. Now there is a nice transition area, so don't think that it's going to be harsh and abrupt. But just simply turning it a few degrees, if I'm lighting from the side, will be all the difference between the background being bright and the background being dark. So it's really a great modifier for that sort of thing. Now guys, in general, just keep in mind that I've had a lot of time to acquire all of these things. And if you only have an umbrella right now, and you don't have 30 softboxes, it's okay. The most important thing is that you take the tools that you have and you get out there and you start shooting and you start learning from them. These examples I gave today were really just examples of how I use the ones that I have. There might be a different configuration for the way that you want to use them. And in addition to that, you can use a Stripbox as your main light, and you can use an umbrella as your main light. You can use a rectangular softbox as your main light. You can even use a rectangular softbox or an octabox as a strip light, an edge light back there. Really, the choice is up to you. But in general, that's how I use the modifiers, so I hope that made sense. So if you have any questions or comments, please leave those below and I'll get back to you. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. If you're watching this on Instagram TV, just know that you could watch it on YouTube. In fact, I will publish this video and the ones going forward to YouTube a day before I publish them to Instagram. And if you're watching this on YouTube, if you could please hit subscribe so you could see more videos like this in the future, I would really appreciate it. Anyway guys, thank you so much for your time. Have a great day, and I will talk to you soon.